So my name is Adeel and I am a software engineer at GeekyAnts. I have joined GeekyAnts in the month of June and I'm a full stack developer who love technologies. And this is my first talk. Maybe that's why I'm a little nervous as well. But so today we will be talking about the navigations in React. So let's get started. Okay, so you can see the workshop goes. So what will be discussed in the whole session? First of all, we will be understanding what is actually the routing, what is client-side routing and the server-side routing. And throughout the session, we will be talking about the more about the client-side routing. Then we will be talking about the React routers. Why do we need them? Then we will be discussing about the React routers components, the basic components and the basic hooks of the React router. And we will also look into the underhood of how React routers works in the code base. We will try to build, if we would get the time, we would be building our own React router library. And then we will be talking about the limitations of the client side routing and the React routers and everything. So first of all, the routing. So routing is a mechanism by which the requests are connected to the some code. So whenever you see an anchor tag on the browser on the web page and you click on it, you are requesting something, right? Either it's a new page or you want some data. So basically it's a essential way to navigate throughout the websites and the web pages. By clicking on a link, the URL changes and gives you the new data or the new web pages. So let's see, that's all about the routing. There are two types of routing basically, the server-side routing and the client-side routing. In the server-side routing, you know that in traditional website, the browser requests a new document and the document is coming to your browser client and the browser renders the whole document. And when the server responds you with a document, you also see the JavaScript assets and the CSS and it all works. And whenever you do the same thing again on the anchor click, or whenever you click something, it do all this process all over again. Let's see how it works in by taking an example. So let's say you are trying to go to the geekyants.com. So the website is goes to the server, the request goes to the server, the get request, HTTP get request goes to the server, the server evaluates what the request is, and through their uh, routes algorithm, it returns you the file that you are requesting, and the browser renders the whole document to the web page. So, but there is a problem with that. Let's say you wanted to click on this about us button click, you again go to the this process is going to be again happen. The request is going to the server evaluating and giving you the result, the response, and the browser is displaying the result. But you can see this head most of the time in the most of the websites, the header and the footers are these kind of things do not change, they persist throughout the. So rendering it again and again, it's getting loaded on every refresh, and the server side will also cause refresh. So there are a lot of performance issues with the server side requests. So we will be talking about the pros and the cons of the server side routing after few slides. So in the server side pros and cons, the pros are the deployment is much easier because you do not have to do much thing on the cloud side. Everything is handled by the server, the routing, and only loaded the required data. I'll be talking about this thing after we discuss about the client side, so you can have a better understanding why I mean only loaded the required data. Since it's been a traditional way of server side, and the more routes are available on the servers, so the search engines are optimized for the server side rendering. The cons of the server side routing is that every request result in a full page refresh, which causes lots of issues. And I told you that lots of components get, even though they are on the from the first page to the end of the website, but still it gets refreshed every time. And every page take a time to render. Let's say if you click on the home button is getting from the server. Let's say if you click on the web the about button is taking the time to render because it's going to the server and all these things happening. So the client side routing, let's go to the previous thing. The client side routing, this do something totally different. So this allows your app to update the URL without making any other request. What it do is it blocks your get request, the HTTP get request to the server, and handle all this routing internally inside the JavaScript code. So instead, your app can make immediate renders on some new UI and make data requests and fetch some new things for the page and can display new things on the new views according to the path you are at in the browser. So let's take an example. Let's say you goes to the GeekyAnts.com. Let's take here this example. Let's say in the for the first page it is going to be the same as server side routing. You type something on the address bar, it made a get request to the server, and it will give you a response, the document, and it will be rendering on the screen. So but when you click on the about us button, the here it is now going to go to the server and all these things, but what it would do is it will change uh, the URL. It will manipulate the URL by using the history object, and it will and the conditional rendering will happen according to the URL. You have defined a route for that, and according to the path it will display the component that you want to show, and it on that specific part, and it will keep the sync of the UI and the path, the URL. So what does I mean by only required data from the server side? So whenever you go to the geekyants.com/about, what server side do is it will get you the about page only. But in the client side routing, when you type this kind of URL, the geekyants.com/about, what it'll do is it will go to the server, it will look for the about page, but it won't find it because there isn't any about page on the server. It will check on the other dev servers, but it won't be finding it, and it will serve you the index.html with some client side JavaScript code to handle the routing. And when it get back to the client, the JavaScript will interpret it, and the compilation will happen, and you will see the rendering, the conditional rendering according to the about object. So you can see the client doesn't respond you what you are looking for. Instead, he gives you everything in the first render. So that's the difference between the server side routing and the client side routing. I hope this will be clear now. So we can move the pros and the cons of the client side. We will be discussing at the end of the slide, since the pros and cons are very similar to the React routers. So what is React routers? So basically it's a standard library for routing in the React. It enables the navigation. Navigation is very important for the website. It gives the users to access the information as soon as and as easy as it can get. And we developers can take this as an advantage. So it enables the navigation among views, various components in the React application, allows the changing the browser URL and keeping the UI sync with the URL. The React.js router is mainly used for developing the single page web applications where you do not have multiple pages. You have single pages and you just pretend that there are a lot of pages, but and you manipulate the whole history and whole URL thing, and you try to keep the UI in sync with the URL. You can add the multiple routes to the application, and whenever the route is matches to any specific route that you have defined in the routes, then you will be redirected to that particular route, and you will see the sync, the component. All right, so why we actually need the React routers? Well, first of all, it's the most popular library among all of its alternatives. among competitors. So it gives you allow you to build the web pages without having the single web applications, without refreshing the pages as the user navigates. That's the best thing about the React routers. The React routers also use the components structures to call the components. Let's say if you the routers match with the path, the whole component will be so you can conditionally render the whole components. And the other examples are, you can see in the the GIF file, the home, when we clicking on the any link, the page is not getting refreshed. So there are multiple more advantage, like the code splitting. You can always import dynamically with the react.lazy the routes, and it will only be loaded when it requires. So you have kind of splitted the code, so your 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 application serves you faster. And it also preventing the page refresh, uh, which improves a lot of efficiency in the web applications. And you can also define the animations and the transitions between the states, which is totally not possible in the server side routing, because every time there's a refresh in the server side routing. So setting up the routes. So basically, it has a lot of components inside. So we will be discussing about the basic components of the React router library. So the first one is the browser router. It's the most important router in terms of React routing libraries, because it is the parent component that store all the other components, and it can have only one child. It cannot have multiple children. It can have only child. Basically, this is the component that is responsible for changing the URLs on the web, on the address bar. It uses internally, we will see when we will try to implement uh, the custom library for the React routers, that this browser router is changing all about the whole locations thing. It will be using the location his window dot history dot push state to manage all these states change, the link changes, and all the other handling things. And it will be changing the context of location to every children. There are some props you can pass to the browser writer, the base URL for all the location, from which location your location should start. And the force refresh, if you pass it as a true, it will be affecting like you are doing it on server side routing. It will be, and every route change there's a full refresh. And the get user confirmation, this is a function to confirm the navigations. You must have been to go to a lot of websites like ghana.com. So whenever you go try to close a window, it asks you basically whether you wanted to do this, or if you just clicked it by mistake. So it it wants the user confirmation, and you can pass that function to this browser router. Next thing is the routes. Basically, it is the most important. It is also the most important component of this. Since in the React versions, in the React router version 6, it has been made most intelligent component in all these things. What it'll do is it get along with the children. It tries to know every children that you have, every route that you have passed uh, into the as a children in the routes. And it it is the component that decide what route should be, what component should be show when the route is being, when the path is matched. So basically, it is the routes is the thing that matches the path and take the decision which is the most, this which is the most matched component. So route, it is the component's most basic responsibility is to render some UI when the path is matched the current URL. It has a prop name called path. If the path name matches the current location, it gets rendered. You can see the whole object. We can pass a lot of things into the route objects. Let me define some. The path name, as I told you in the definition, that if You can pass the pattern to match the URL. You can also provide as the loader provides the data to the element before it renders. And also the element, you can pass which element should be rendered when the route is matched the URL. All right, now the link. A link is an element that lets the user navigate to another view by tapping it, similar to just how a do and the anchor to tag do it. So basically it's an anchor tag for the React library. So you can navigate through the whole website using this link, and this doesn't cause the re-renders. No, this doesn't cause the refreshes. So you can basically pass the two the you can it has a property called the two. You can pass like three different ways. You can pass the two property. You can pass it as a string where you mention the path where you want to go. You can pass the two as an object as well, where you can find where you can define the path name, the search, the hash if you want, and the state you want to um, convey to another component of that location. So basically in the third type, you can see link to the location. Basically what it do is you can always have the location as a function in the current location in the function as an argument. So you can use that function to do all your logics to. So you can also pass the function as you can also pass the function to the two. So basically the path name, the path to link to the search, the query parameters you wanted to show like this, the get parameters, and the state you wanted to persist to the location you wanted to pass the state to the location, and the hash that say you wanted to pass a hash to the other location. You can always do that with the links too. So basically you can also navigate through the programmatically. Let's say if the user is logged in and you do not want to show the login or sign in page to him because he has already signed in. Let's reroute it to the dashboard. Or if the person is logged out, you don't want him to see the dashboard page. So you can always use the navigate component element here. So you can always change the current location when it get rendered. You can in the example you can always see that the user is logged in. If the user is logged in, you can always navigate to the dashboard. If it is does not, then please show the sign in form. So you can see if the user is true, if the user is logged in, then you will be navigating to the dashboard. So you can programmatically navigate the person. Most of the time we are using the redirects here. We do not use much the navigation nowadays. Use navigate. This is a hook that is provided by the React routers that returns a function and lets you navigate programmatically as well. You can always pass all these things again. Just like if you pass the something to the navigate element, you can always pass the things to the use this hook as well. So you can also navigate programmatically through using this hook. You can see in the example, if the person has been logged out, please navigate to the session timeout page. So if the person is logged out, you will be redirecting to another page. So 404 page, we developers know that the 404 page is very important for us, since we always believe that the user is going to go do something that is not present on the website, and we just do not want him to show some errors. We always wanted to handle the errors as well. So basically the 404 page, you can every website needs a 404 page. If the let's say the URL doesn't match, or the user mistakenly type incorrect spelling of the route, so you just wanted to show him the 404 page. So basically if you add a route without a path, it will always match. This route must be placed as a lifestyle, but not anymore, because the React router 6 version 6 has been uh, improved a lot, and it detects whether it is a route defined or not. but it is always a better to define the 404 route at the end, and it's always good to have a 404 page. You can see always the example in the here. If the path has been selected every path, then the element is going to be page not found. So that's it about the 404 page. Let's put all these things together. The browser router handles the URL things on the on the browser. So basically it manipulates the URL for you. The routes take the decision whether which route should I which path has been matched according to the URL, which path matches the most to the current URL. So basically this one is intelligent, and this has only one thing: if the router is matched, just show the just show the component or render the UI that is being linked with that UI. And this is just act like a anchor tag in the React router. You can navigate through links, and you can pass a lot of data. Just not navigate to the website, you can also pass a lot of data to the other locations through the link. But how these actually working in general, I mean, we know we always using these things, but how never know how they work under the hood. So let's start how is they work under the hood. I have a code pen here. So basically we are going to build some components here, like the link, the router. Basically it's a browser router. It's a routes that is going to take the decision whether it matches the path or not, and this route is always going to render the if the path is being matched, just render the UI. And we will be using the contact, of course, because everything is going to be inside the router, and we want everyone to use that location, so everything can be know what current location is this. We will be using a helper function as well that requires. All right, let's get started. So basically it's been one. So first of all, we will be defining this router function. So first of all, let's define function. We are going to export it. Let's export the function router. What it will do is it will be handling all the location things. So we must have a state called location. Let's have a location and set location. And what is going to have is window location dot path name. I hope it is going to be, yes, we do not need this thing right now. So this path name, this the path of the URL, I am going to save the in the location state. So since we have the location, now we need a function. So if we navigate by clicking anything, so the it could set as something as new state. So I'll be using, let's const handle. What should we do? Handle, let's push. This handle push function will be, what will it be doing is it will be setting location. If we change the location to, and it will be having a new location as a function location as an argument, and we will be saving as a, but we will also be doing is we will be setting the URL. I hope you guys have familiar with the window.history object. The so what we'll be using is, why is it taking time? So you can see the URL. So you window.history.pushState. So first one is data. We do not want something for now. The title, I do not want something, but let's say I want to have the Adeel route. So you can see this changes the manipulates the URL without even changing the whole thing. So I'll be using this thing as well. So I can set the path, but that is going to be the new location. The path is going to be the new location. All right. No, but the something is missing right here. You can always see we have always used these buttons to navigate as well. So I wanted to consider those as well. So we will be the event. This is called the pop state. So we will be adding a event true, which is going to be run for the first time, and it's going to be window dot add event listener. What would be the listener? It is going to be pop state, and we will be handling, what should I name it? Handle hash in, let's see, let's define this thing once. Handle hash chain things is going to be a function. What it will do is it will set the location to, again, window dot location, since you have been changed the location. So let's just change the location path name. I hope this works. Okay, so since it is going to be a simple, so let's wrap it in the react.memo version. I think I forget this thing, and I need to pass a react.memo, sorry, react.use callback. All right, this has been defined. The use effect, I wanted to have to change this thing. If this change, please run yourself, so you can add the end event listener to the thing. And we also need a context, so I'll be adding the context here, router context. So let me just copy it and paste the router context because it would take time. I'll be telling you, I'll just create a context, router context, and it has a location. It is an object, has a location property and the push method, which will be, I will be replacing with this thing. So basically I am also passing this as a use router and passing the context. So basically let me just import this thing to there. Let me add the value as well. That's it. Let me add this as I use callback again. And I want it now to be changed. I hope now we can pass this value as a context provider. Or I can just copy it and paste it. So we can see the time. Now the children, I want to have the children as well. So let's push the children here, and this has to be included here as well. So that's all about the browser router you have seen in the React router. That's all it do is it just changes the history according to the location, and it manipulates the URL as well, and it changes the location and let it available for the children as well. So that's all about routing. Now we will be setting about the routes, but before routes we need to do something uh, in this thing. We need to set up the match form because we want something to have so it can always matches the path according to the current location. So for that I need to have a function. Let me just copy this function. So what it do is it always, thus you can see there's a regex that's checked for the dynamic URL. If you have any dynamic URL, if you are having any dynamic URL, it will be reverting the regex and the key. I mean the next word after the dynamic URL. Let's say if you are saying the product slash one, so the one is going to be the key and the regex that has matched. So I can check what every path, what regex do they have. So let's go to the match form and let's copy and paste. So basically I have the compile path here. So basically what it do is I have an array that's requires basically. So what I will doing, I'll be looping through the childrens of the children of the childrens of the routes, basically every route. So I have the accesses to the path and the children, what's the component needs to be shown on when the path is matches. So what I'm doing, I'm compiling the routes.prop.path, the path I'm going to pass, and I'm getting the regex and the keys. What are the regex of that path and what is the key of that path? And I'm trying to, and since the location I can always get it since I'm going to pass the location. So you can always match the location if the location is matches. If the path and the location is matches, what I'm doing is I'm getting the keys, the param, the 1 2 3 or product, the primer or everything, anything that matches, I'm pushing it in the params and I am pushing that object into the match array. Since it's not going to be that smart like React version 6, so what I'll be retaining is I'm just matching the first that matches with the path. So now let's go for the routes. I think I have, so left. So before routes, I need to have the context of routes. I'll be explaining just a second. Here you can see I have created a context. So for the params that I'm going to pass through the children's of the routes, so everyone can have that property. So I can literally show on what page you are. So I can have the access to the key as well on the route. So here, just a second. So here what it's doing is I am having all these childrens. I have the access to the current location through the context. And what I'm doing is I'm using the match and passing the children to another location. And it is giving me the, uh, it is giving me, it is giving me this first match with the route, and with the route means what the component in it and what is the parameter that has been passed to the that path. So basically that's done. And if something is doesn't matches, like I said, everyone should have a 404 page. If the match is undefined, then we will be using the 404 page. Okay, so basically now the routes come, it will be as simple as its work is just to render the children's. It's just about all rendering the children. So let's, everything is being completed except link. So let's just quickly enable it. So you can always see the push method that from the router, and we can push to the function always. All right, let's just app.js and copy this thing. So in the app, I do not have the app.css. So you can see I have two products, an ID, and let's just see how it is work. Product one, this matches with the page, and I have the access to the ID. So using the use params, and I can go back to this, and I can also use the same. So that's all about today, guys, and we let's get back to the presentation. So we have seen what is actually what happened under the hood, and the limitations already, you already know that uh, you need to add an external package, or you have to do some extra coding things on the client side to handle all these routes. And since it's everything is on the same task, that search engine optimization content is that's possible, but with the difficult things. And if your whole website is quite big, you do not want it to fetch at everything entire thing on the first request, so it generally loads faster, slower than the slow server side routing for the first request. So alternatives, you can always use the 10 stack router, the router, the ultimate router. These are the alternatives to the React routers. And thank you guys. That's all about it.